The conference room aboard Aurora's Hope felt cold despite the life support systems working perfectly. Ambassador Taman sat across from Commander Vorth, trying not to show any emotion on his face. The Vareth commander was massive, nearly 8 feet tall with dark red skin and 4 arms folded across his chest. His eyes were completely black, like staring into empty space. "You have heard our terms," Vorth said. His voice was deep and steady. 15 of your colony worlds will be surrendered to Vareth control. 70% of your military fleet will be dismantled. Vareth officials will oversee your government on Earth. You have 30 days to accept these conditions. Taman felt his hands grip the edge of the table. 30 days to give up everything humanity had built in the stars. 30 days to become slaves in all but name. He thought about the billions of humans living on those colony worlds, farmers, teachers, children who had never seen Earth. "And if we refuse?" Taman asked, though he already knew the answer. Vorth's expression did not change. "Then we will remove you from the galaxy. The Vareth Empire has fought 147 wars in our history. We have won all of them. Humanity would be the 148th. The meeting ended soon after. Taman walked back through the corridors of his ship with Captain Jiwan beside him. She was quiet, her military training showing in her straight posture and controlled movements, but Taman could see the anger in her eyes. "We should fight," Jiwan said when they were alone in the captain's quarters. "We can't just give up everything." Taman poured himself water from the dispenser. His hands were shaking slightly. "The Vareth have 3 times our fleet size. Their weapons are more advanced. Every member of the Galactic Assembly says we cannot win. Then what do we do?" Jiwan sat down heavily. "Just surrender? Let them take our worlds? Let them put their officials on Earth to watch over us like children?" Taman was quiet for a long moment. He had been thinking about this since the Vareth first sent their demands 3 weeks ago. He had studied every file available on the Vareth military, their history, their victories. But he had also been studying something else. "There might be another way," he said finally, "but it's risky. And it depends on finding one person." Over the next week, the debate raged across human space. Earth's government held emergency sessions. Some leaders argued for acceptance of the Vareth terms. At least humanity would survive, they said. At least we would still exist, even if we lost our freedom. Others refused to even consider surrender. They talked about human dignity and independence. They spoke of the colonists who had traveled years through space to build new homes. Some even wanted to attack the Vareth immediately, to strike first before the ultimatum ended. Mirai, the ship's chief science officer, brought Taman a cup of coffee in his office. She had been studying Vareth psychology for the past 3 days, barely sleeping. "They mean what they say," she told him. "The Vareth don't bluff. If we refuse and they attack, they will not stop until humanity is completely defeated. Their culture values absolute victory. What if we could change the equation?" Taman asked. "What if we could fight them in a way they don't expect?" Mirai looked at him carefully. "You're talking about the files you requested from military intelligence. The classified ones," Taman nodded. "I'm talking about Colonel Deho." The name hung in the air between them. Mirai had heard of Deho, though most of what she knew came from rumors and half-deleted records. A military officer who had won battles that should have been impossible. Someone who thought about warfare differently than anyone else. "Do you think he would help us?" Mirai asked. "The reports say he disappeared, that he wanted nothing to do with military service anymore." "I don't know," Taman admitted, "but he's our only chance. The Vareth have never lost because they always have superior force.
They always have better technology.
They win through overwhelming power, but what if we could make them fight a different kind of war?" On day 7, Taman received permission from Earth's government to proceed with his plan. It came with conditions and warnings. Many leaders thought he was wasting precious time. Others thought he was chasing a ghost, but they agreed to let him try. Taman sent an encrypted message to Earth's military headquarters. The message contained detailed information about the Vareth threat, the ultimatum timeline, and humanity's desperate situation. At the end of the message, he included a specific request that had taken him 3 days to get approved. Captain Jiwan entered the communication room just as Taman was finishing. "You really think one person can make a difference?" she asked. "Against an entire empire that has never lost a war?" Taman thought about his answer. He had spent weeks studying military history, both human and alien. He had learned that wars were not always won by the strongest army. Sometimes they were won by the smartest commander. Sometimes they were won before the first shot was ever fired. The Verith think they have already won, Taman said. They think we will surrender because we have no choice. They think if we fight we will lose because they are stronger, but they are making an assumption. What assumption? They assume we will fight the way every other species has fought them. Direct confrontation. Fleet against fleet. Power against power. But what if we don't? G1 considered this. Her military background made her think in terms of tactics and strategy. You need someone who can think outside traditional warfare. Someone who understands that the battle is won in the planning, not in the fighting. Exactly, Taman said. That's why we need Deho. On day 10, Taman received his response. It came from Captain G1, who had traveled to Earth to pursue the search personally. The message was brief but contained the information Taman desperately needed. Found him. He's alive. Location New Spring Colony. But there's a problem. He doesn't want to be found, and he definitely doesn't want to fight. Requesting permission to make contact anyway. Taman approved immediately. 3 days later, another message arrived. This one was longer and came with video footage. Taman watched as G1 stood in a field of rice talking to a man who looked younger than expected. Daiho was in his early 40s wearing simple farming clothes. His face was calm, but his eyes showed the weight of experience. The video showed their conversation. G1 explaining humanity's situation. Daiho listening without expression. Then his refusal, simple and direct. He was done with war, done with death, done with the weight of command. Taman felt his hope starting to fade. Without Daiho, humanity's options were simple: surrender or die fighting. Neither choice was acceptable, but then the video continued. G1 shared something with Daiho. Intelligence reports that Taman had only recently received from sources within the Galactic Assembly information about what the Verith really planned for humanity. It wasn't just about control. It wasn't just about taking colony worlds and reducing the fleet. The Verith planned something worse: cultural cleansing. They would erase human language, human history, human identity. Children would grow up speaking Verath, learning Verith history, believing humans were inferior and needed Verath guidance. Humanity would not just lose its freedom, it would lose itself. Taman watched as Daiho's expression changed. The calm farmer disappeared. Something else emerged. Someone who understood what was truly at stake. The video ended with Daiho's response. Tell Ambassador Taman I need complete tactical command. No politicians interfering with military decisions. Access to every resource humanity has. If I do this, I do it my way. Taman leaned back in his chair. 20 days remained until the ultimatum expired. 20 days to prepare for a war against an enemy that had never been defeated. He sent 3 messages. The first went to Earth's government requesting the authority Daiho demanded. The second went to military headquarters ordering them to prepare for Daiho's arrival and commands. The third went to Captain G1. The message contained 3 words: bring him home. Daiho arrived at Earth's military headquarters in Geneva, 18 days before the ultimatum expired. He carried only a small bag and wore the same simple clothes from his farm. No uniform, no medals, nothing to show he was once one of humanity's most successful military commanders. General Park met him at the entrance. The general was older, in his 60s, with gray hair and a face marked by years of command. He looked at Daiho with a mix of respect and concern. Colonel Daiho, Park said. Welcome back, just Daiho, he replied. I'm not a colonel anymore. Park nodded but did not argue. They walked through security and into the command center. The room was massive, filled with screens showing star maps, fleet positions, and intelligence reports. Dozens of officers worked at stations, coordinating humanity's military forces across multiple systems. Everyone stopped working when Daiho entered. They stared at him. The legend who had never lost. The officer who had retired at the height of his career. The man who might be humanity's last hope. Daiho ignored them. He walked to the central display table and began examining the tactical information. Star maps of human space, fleet deployments, reports on Verith military strength. He studied everything in silence. After 10 minutes, he spoke. I need a team. 5 people, specialists in specific areas. I will give you names and requirements. Find them and bring them here within 3 days. 3 days, Park said. Some of these people might be scattered across the colonies. Then I suggest you start immediately. Daiho said without looking up from the displays. I also need complete access to all intelligence on the Varath. Not just military data. Everything. History, culture, psychology, how they think, what they value, what they fear. Over the next 2 days, Daiho rarely slept. He studied 3,000 years of Varath history. He watched recordings of their battles. He read analyses of their tactics. He examined their culture, their honor codes, their beliefs about warfare. Mirai arrived from Aurora's Hope to assist. She brought her research on Varath psychology and sat with Daiho in a small conference room, going through centuries of data. They have never lost, Mirai said. Not once in 147 wars. How is that possible? Because they don't take risks, Daiho answered. He pointed to a battle record from 200 years ago. Look at this. The Varath fought the Kelson Union. The Kelson had a smaller fleet but were defending their home territory. Should have been a difficult fight. But the Varath waited. They gathered more ships. They studied Kelson defenses for months. Then they attacked with 5 times the force needed. Overwhelming victory. So they win through patience and superior numbers, Mirai said. Yes, but there's more. Daiho pulled up another record. They always announce their attacks. They always fight directly. They consider deception to be cowardly. It's part of their honor code. To the Varath, true strength means facing your enemy openly. Mirai leaned forward. That's their weakness. Maybe, Daiho said. But it's also what makes them dangerous. They don't need deception because they always have overwhelming force. They don't need tricks because they are genuinely stronger than their opponents. Except now, Mirai said quietly. Now they're fighting us. Daiho did not respond. He continued studying the data. On the 3rd day, Daiho's team arrived. General Park had moved quickly, pulling people from across human space. They gathered in a secure briefing room. Hyunwoo was first to arrive. He was thin, in his 30s, with quick eyes that constantly scanned the room. His specialty was tactical deception, creating false intelligence, making enemies see what was not there. He had trained in psychological warfare and information manipulation. You ran the Harmony operation, Hyunwoo said when he met Daiho. I studied your tactics in training. The false supply lines, the Phantom Regiment. Beautiful work. It worked because the rebels were disorganized, Daiho said. The Varath are not rebels. They are professionals. Next came Soman. She was younger than the others, barely 30, but her record was impressive. She had trained as an asteroid miner before joining the military. She understood how to pilot ships in complex environments, asteroid fields, gas giant atmospheres, dangerous spaces where normal fleet tactics did not work. Can you fly in conditions that would destroy most pilots? Daiho asked her directly. Yes, Soman said without hesitation. Give me a target and environment parameters. I'll tell you if it's possible. Junho arrived next. He was quiet, spending the first 10 minutes observing rather than speaking. His specialty was communications and electronic warfare. He could hack enemy systems, create false signals, and disrupt coordination between ships. The Varath use encrypted military channels, Junho said. Very secure. But every system has vulnerabilities. Give me time and access to their transmission frequencies. I can create problems for them. The last member was Dr. Nari. She was older, in her 50s, with silver hair and a gentle manner. But her expertise was crucial. She had spent 20 years studying alien psychology. She understood how different species thought, what motivated them, what scared them. The Varath value honor above all, Nari explained during her first meeting with Daiho. To them, warfare is not just about winning. It is about proving strength, about showing courage. Losing in honorable combat is better than winning through deception. Can we use that? Daiho asked. Possibly, Nari said carefully. But it's dangerous. If you make them angry, they will not think clearly. But angry Varath are also more brutal, more willing to accept casualties if it means proving their strength. Daiho brought the team together on day 15. Only 15 days remained until the ultimatum expired. He stood before them in the briefing room with star maps displayed behind him. We cannot win through direct confrontation, Daiho said simply. The Varath fleet is 3 times our size. Their ships are more advanced. Their weapons are stronger. If we fight them the way every other species has fought them, we will lose. Then how do we fight them? Hyunwoo asked. We make them fight on our terms, Daiho said. He pulled up a star map showing the Autumn Reach system. 3 colony worlds, dense asteroid fields, 2 unstable gas giants. We choose the battlefield. We control the environment. We make them come to us. They'll just wait, Somin said, like they did with the Kelson Union. They'll gather more ships until they have overwhelming force. Not if we make them angry enough, Deho replied. Not if we challenge their honor in a way they cannot ignore. He spent the next hour explaining his plan. The team listened in silence as Deho outlined every step. The initial positioning, the false retreats, the environmental traps, the unconventional tactics that would enrage Varath commanders. This is insane, Junho said when Deho finished. You're planning to deliberately make them furious, to attack their pride, to make them abandon their usual patience. Yes, Deho said. What if it doesn't work? Dr. Nari asked. What if they see through the deception? What if they remain calm and simply overwhelm us with force? Deho was quiet for a moment. Then humanity loses. But if we fight them directly, we lose anyway. This plan gives us a chance. Small, but real. Over the next 5 days, the team worked constantly. Hyunwoo created false intelligence reports suggesting human defenses at Autumn Reach were weaker than they appeared. Junho identified Varath communication frequencies and developed methods to disrupt them. Somin studied the Autumn Reach system in detail, mapping every asteroid and calculating trajectories through the gas giant's atmosphere. Dr. Nari helped Deho craft a message. It needed to be carefully worded, not so insulting that the Varath would suspect manipulation, but insulting enough to make them abandon their usual patience. Question their courage, Nari suggested. Not directly, but imply that humanity doubts Varath's strength. Suggest that the Varath are afraid of a fair fight, that they hide behind superior numbers because they lack true warrior spirit. Deho nodded slowly. Commander Vorth, he delivered the ultimatum. We should address the challenge to him personally. On day 28, 2 days before the ultimatum expired, Ambassador Taman sent humanity's official response. The message was broadcast across the Galactic Assembly so every species could see. The answer was simple. No. Humanity rejects the Varath ultimatum. We will not surrender our worlds. We will not reduce our fleet. We will not accept oversight of our government. If the Varath Empire wishes to take what we have built, they will need to fight for it. Attached to this message was a personal communication from Colonel Deho to Commander Vorth. It questioned whether the Varath were truly warriors or simply bullies who hid behind superior force. It suggested that true courage meant fighting fairly, in conditions that tested skill rather than numbers. It challenged Vorth to prove Varath's strength in the Autumn Reach system. The message was delivered using clumsy human phrasing, as if Deho did not fully understand Varath culture. But every word was calculated, every phrase designed to anger while appearing to be simple human bravado. In the command center, Deho watched the message being transmitted. General Park stood beside him. You've bet everything on this, Park said, on making them angry enough to abandon their advantages. Yes, Deho said. And if you're wrong, if they simply gather more ships and crush us with overwhelming force. The Autumn Reach system had been a peaceful place before Deho turned it into a battlefield. 3 colony worlds where families farmed and built homes, asteroid fields that miners worked carefully, extracting valuable minerals, 2 gas giants that scientists studied from a safe distance. Now it was being evacuated. Ships arrived constantly, taking colonists to safety deeper in human space. The evacuation was public, broadcast across every channel. The Galactic Assembly watched as humanity appeared to abandon these worlds, preparing for inevitable defeat. But some people were not evacuating. Some were staying behind with very specific orders. Captain Jiwon stood on the bridge of her ship, the Aurora's Hope, watching the tactical display. The human fleet was gathering. 200 ships, not nearly enough to face 600 Varath warships in direct combat. But Deho's plan did not involve direct combat. Position confirmed, her navigation officer reported. We're in the outer asteroid field, exactly where Colonel Deho specified. All ships report ready, her communications officer added. Waiting for final orders, Jiwon looked at the countdown timer. 3 days until the Varath fleet arrived. 3 days to finish preparations. She thought about Deho's plan, how crazy it sounded when he first explained it, how it depended on perfect timing and the Varath reacting exactly as predicted. Captain, her first officer said quietly, Do you really think this will work? Jiwon did not answer immediately. She had been asking herself the same question for days. Colonel Daeho has never lost a battle, but he's never fought the Varath either. We'll find out soon enough. On the second colony world, Hyunwoo supervised the placement of false defense installations. They looked real from a distance. Weapons platforms, shield generators, troop barracks, all of them empty. All of them designed to make the Varath believe humanity was preparing for traditional defense. The deception needs to be perfect, Hyunwoo told his team. The Varath will scan these installations. They need to see what they expect to see. Weak defenses that can be easily overwhelmed. His technical officer nodded. We've installed signal generators that mimic power readings from real weapons. Heat signatures that suggest troops inside the barracks. Everything will read as authentic on their sensors. Good, Hyunwoo said, because when they see these weak defenses, they'll be confident. Confident enemies make mistakes. In the asteroid field, Somin worked with mining crews to prepare the real traps, not weapons in the traditional sense. These were mining charges placed carefully on specific asteroids, timed to create debris fields at precise moments, calculated to force Varath ships into predetermined paths. The timing has to be perfect, Somin explained to her pilots. When the Varath fleet enters the asteroid field, we need to create chaos without actually destroying their ships. We want them disoriented, angry, chasing us into the deeper field where their numbers mean nothing. One of the younger pilots looked nervous. What if they don't chase us? What if they just go around? Somin smiled grimly. They'll chase us. Colonel Daeho is making sure of it. Junho sat in a communications hub hidden on the third colony world. His screen showed Varath transmission frequencies, military encryption patterns, and communication protocols. He had been studying their systems for weeks, looking for vulnerabilities. I can't break their encryption completely, Junho admitted to Daeho during a secure call. Their military codes are very sophisticated, but I can disrupt their transmissions, create interference, make it hard for their ships to coordinate once the battle starts. That's all we need, Daeho said. The Varath are used to perfect communication between their ships. Take that away and their formations fall apart. There's risk, Junho warned. If they detect the interference source, they might trace it back here. They might target this location specifically. They won't have time, Daeho said. By the time they realize what's happening, the battle will be decided. Dr. Nari spent her time analyzing every piece of intelligence about Commander Vorth specifically. His battle history, his decisions in previous conflicts, his personality profile based on recorded communications. He's proud, Nari told Daeho, more than most Varath. He sees this battle as personally important. Your challenge insulted him directly. He won't just want to win, he'll want to prove himself, to show humanity that questioning Varath courage was a mistake. Will he take risks? Daeho asked. Yes, Nari said, especially if the battle goes in an unexpected direction. If he starts losing, he'll become desperate to turn it around. His pride won't let him accept defeat. Daeho nodded slowly. Then we need to make him feel like he's losing. Even if he isn't, perception matters more than reality. On the final day before the Varath arrival, Daeho gathered his team one last time. They met in a secure room on one of the colony worlds that would soon become a battlefield. Outside, the last evacuation ships were departing. Everyone understands their role, Daeho said. It was not a question. When the Varath fleet arrives, they will see what appears to be a desperate defensive position. Weak colonies with minimal defenses, a human fleet that is outnumbered and outgunned. They'll be confident, Hyunwoo said. Exactly, Daeho continued. That confidence is our first weapon. They'll expect an easy victory. They'll expect us to fight desperately, to defend these colonies with everything we have. Instead, we're going to run. Somin leaned forward. The retreat through the asteroid field. That's when we start the real plan. Yes, Daeho said. The asteroids will provide cover and chaos. Hunho will disrupt their communications. They won't be able to maintain formation. Individual ships will chase individual targets. That's when small groups start picking them apart. What about their main fleet? One of the officers asked. Even if we scatter them, they still have massive numbers. Which is why we need the final piece, Daeho said. He pulled up a display of the gas giant. This planet's atmosphere is unstable. The scientists have been warning colonists about it for years. Magnetic storms. Pressure variations. It's dangerous for ships to get too close. Everyone stared at the display. Understanding slowly appeared on their faces. You're going to use the planet itself as a weapon, Dr. Nari said quietly. Soman's mining ships will carry drilling equipment, Deho explained. Not weapons. Just mining tools. When the Vareth fleet regroups at the gas giant, thinking it's a safe defensive position, those mining ships will destabilize the atmosphere. The resulting energy wave will disable every ship in range. That's insane, Junho said. The calculations would need to be perfect. One mistake and nothing happens. Or worse, the explosion could be too big and destroy our ships too. The calculations are perfect, Soman said. I've run the numbers 100 times. It will work. Hyunwoo looked at Deho. And if something goes wrong, if any part of this plan fails? Deho met his eyes. Then we improvise. But the core strategy remains the same. We don't fight the battle they expect. We don't play to their strengths. We make them fight our way, in an environment where their advantages mean nothing. That night, Deho stood alone on the surface of the second colony world. Above him, stars filled the sky. Somewhere out there, the Varath fleet was traveling toward this system. 600 warships coming to crush humanity's resistance. Captain Jiwon found him there. She did not speak at first, just stood beside him looking at the stars. Do you think we can actually win? She asked finally. Deho was quiet for a long moment. I think we have a chance. Better than any other plan would give us. The Vareth have won 147 wars because they always had superior force. They always fought enemies who tried to match their strength. But we're not going to match their strength. We're going to make strength irrelevant. By using intelligence instead, Jiwon said. Yes, by understanding them better than they understand themselves. By predicting their reactions. By turning their own nature against them. And if you're wrong about how they'll react? Deho smiled slightly. It was a tired smile. One that carried the weight of all his previous battles. Then I'll have lost my first war, and humanity will pay the price for trusting me. But you don't think you're wrong? No, Deho admitted. I've studied them for weeks. I've analyzed every battle they've ever fought. I understand how they think. They will come here expecting an easy victory. They will be confident, aggressive, predictable, and that predictability is what will destroy them. The next morning, the Vareth fleet arrived at the edge of the Autumn Reach system, 600 warships in perfect formation. Their approach was broadcast across every channel, a demonstration of power meant to terrify humanity into surrender. Commander Vorth stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the tactical display. The human colonies appeared on his screens. Weak defenses, small fleet, exactly what he expected from a desperate, outmatched enemy. They actually thought their insult would make us hesitate, Vorth said to his officers. They thought questioning our courage would give them an advantage. Instead, they have given us the perfect opportunity to demonstrate Vareth superiority. Orders, Commander? His tactical officer asked. Standard assault formation, Vorth said. We will crush their fleet quickly, then occupy the colonies. Let every species in the galaxy watch. Let them see what happens when anyone challenges the Vareth Empire. The Varath fleet moved through space like a massive wall of metal and power. 600 warships in perfect formation, advancing toward the human defensive position. On every Vareth ship, crews prepared weapons and shields. They expected this battle to be over quickly. Commander Vorth watched his tactical display with satisfaction. The human fleet was small, positioned near the asteroid field. Exactly where intelligence reports said they would be. Weak defenses on the colonies below. Everything pointed to a desperate last stand. Human ships are breaking formation, his tactical officer reported. They appear to be retreating into the asteroid field. Vorth leaned forward. Retreating already? Before the first shot was fired? They're running. Just like the cowards they are. All ships pursue. Don't let them escape. The Vareth fleet accelerated, moving toward the asteroid field. This was going exactly as Vorth expected. Humanity would try to hide in the asteroids using the rocks for cover, but it would not matter. The Vareth had fought in asteroid fields before. They knew how to handle this environment. On the bridge of Aurora's Hope, Captain Jiwon watched the Vareth fleet charging forward. They're following us exactly as Colonel Deho predicted. All ships continue retreat pattern. Lead them deeper into the field. The human fleet scattered, individual ships moving between asteroids. They did not maintain formation. They did not coordinate their movements. To the Varath, it looked like panic, like an army breaking apart under pressure. Phase 1 complete, Jiwan said. They're committed. Junho, begin Phase 2. Hidden on the third colony world, Junho activated his systems. Carefully targeted interference waves flooded the Verath military frequencies. Not enough to completely block communication. Just enough to create static, delays, confusion. On Vorth's flagship, communications began degrading. Sir, we're experiencing interference with fleet coordination channels. From what source? Vorth demanded, unknown. Could be natural magnetic interference from the asteroids. Vorth frowned but dismissed the concern. Maintain pursuit. All ships continue forward. But without clear communications, the perfect Verath formation began to drift. Ships maintained their general direction, but lost precise coordination. Gaps appeared. Individual vessels started making their own decisions about which human ship to pursue. Now, Deho said from the command center on Earth. His displays showed the Verath fleet entering the deeper asteroid field. Soman, activate the mining charges. In the asteroid field, carefully placed charges detonated. Not on Verath ships, on asteroids themselves. The explosions created debris clouds, flying rocks, dust that blocked sensors. The carefully mapped paths through the field suddenly became chaotic. Verath ships found themselves dodging unexpected debris. Their sensors could not see clearly. Their communications were disrupted. Their formation completely fell apart. What's happening? Vorth shouted. Get me a clear tactical picture. The asteroid field is destabilizing, his sensor officer reported. Multiple explosions creating debris clouds. I can't track all human ships. I can't maintain formation overview. For the first time, Vorth felt a touch of concern. This was not how battles worked. This was chaos, disorder, not the clean, organized warfare the Verath were used to. All ships, he commanded. Free engagement. Pursue and destroy any human vessel you encounter. Show them Verath power. This was exactly what Deho wanted. The Verath fleet was now hundreds of individual ships, each acting alone, each chasing human vessels through a confusing maze of asteroids and debris. Phase 3, Deho ordered. Begin targeted strikes. Throughout the asteroid field, human ships suddenly stopped running. Small groups of 3 or 4 ships would turn and ambush single Verath vessels. They would attack from multiple angles, targeting specific systems, engines, weapons, sensors, not trying to destroy the ship completely, just disable it. Then they would disappear back into the asteroid field before other Verath ships could respond. We're taking casualties, a Verath officer reported to Vorth. 7 ships disabled, 13 damaged. The humans are using hit-and-run tactics, cowardly tactics. Vorth slammed his fist against his command chair. They refuse to fight with honor. All ships regroup at coordinate 774. We will reorganize and crush them with coordinated assault. But regrouping proved difficult. Communications were still disrupted. Ships were scattered throughout the asteroid field, and every time Verath vessels tried to gather, human ships would appear and attack before vanishing again. Yunwu watched the battle from his control station. They're getting frustrated, angry. Exactly what we needed. Dr. Nari, is Vorth responding as predicted? Yes, Nari said, monitoring Verath communications. He's enraged. His messages are becoming more aggressive, less tactical. He's letting emotion override training. Hours passed. The battle continued. Not the quick, decisive victory Vorth expected. Instead, a grinding, frustrating fight where the Verath could not bring their superior numbers to bear. They were fighting dozens of small engagements instead of one large battle. Casualties mounting. Vorth's tactical officer reported. 43 ships disabled. 79 damaged. Human losses estimated at 20 ships destroyed or disabled. Vorth could not believe what he was hearing. The Verath were losing, not because the humans were stronger, but because this was not the kind of warfare the Verath knew how to fight. Enough, Vorth shouted. All ships withdraw to the gas giant. We will use it as an anchor point. Reorganize there and then crush them with overwhelming assault. Deho watched the Verath fleet beginning to move toward the gas giant. He allowed himself a small smile. They're doing exactly what we need them to do. Soman, are your mining ships in position? Yes, Soman responded from her ship hidden among a cluster of asteroids. My team is ready. Give the word and we'll move. Not yet, Deho said. Let them gather at the gas giant. Let them feel safe. Then we strike. The Verath fleet began regrouping near the gas giant. It was a large planet with a thick atmosphere, massive storms, and strong magnetic fields, but it provided a stable reference point, a place where the fleet could organize without asteroids blocking sensors or creating confusion. Commander Vorth stood on his bridge, watching his fleet reform. 400 ships gathered. The rest were destroyed or too damaged to continue fighting. He had lost 200 ships against an enemy one-third his size. "This is unacceptable," Vorth said quietly. "Once we reorganize, we will hunt down every human ship. We will show no mercy. We will remind the galaxy why the Varath have never lost." "Sir," his sensor officer said suddenly, multiple small ships approaching from the asteroid field. "They're not warships. They appear to be mining vessels." Vorth stared at the display. "Mining ships? Destroy them." "Why are you even reporting this?" But something made him pause. Something about the way those ships were moving, directly toward the gas giant. Not attacking. Not running. Moving with purpose toward the planet itself. "What are they doing?" Vorth wondered aloud. On her ship, Soman guided her team of mining vessels through space. They were not designed for combat. They had no weapons. Just drilling equipment. Tools designed to break apart asteroids and extract minerals. "Position confirmed," Soman said to her team. "Target points marked. Begin drilling on my mark. Everyone needs to activate simultaneously. Timing is critical." "Commander," one of her pilots said nervously, "there are 400 Varath warships near us. They're going to destroy us." "They won't have time," Somin said. She thought about Deho's plan. How crazy it sounded when he first explained it. How it depended on perfect calculations and precise timing. "Trust the numbers. Mark, execute now." 20 mining ships dove toward the gas giant's atmosphere. Their drilling equipment activated, punching into the upper atmospheric layers. Not deep. Just enough to create disturbances in precise locations. Locations that Soman and her team had calculated for weeks. The gas giant's atmosphere was already unstable. Magnetic storms. Pressure variations. The scientists had been warning about it for years. The mining drills added just enough additional energy to trigger a cascade reaction. "Sir," the Varath sensor officer shouted. "The gas giant! It's destabilizing, energy readings spiking across the entire upper atmosphere." Vorth watched in horror as the planet's atmosphere began reacting to the disturbances. Lightning spread across entire continents of clouds. Magnetic fields fluctuated wildly, and then a massive energy wave erupted from the planet's upper atmosphere. "All ships, emergency power to shields," Vorth commanded, but it was too late. The energy wave hit the Varath fleet like a hammer. Not enough to destroy ships, but enough to overload their electrical systems, disable their weapons, shut down their engines. All across the fleet, Varath warships went dark, drifting in space, powerless. Soman pulled her mining ships away from the gas giant, narrowly escaping the energy wave herself. Mining operation complete, returning to human lines. In the command center on Earth, everyone watched the tactical display. 400 Varath ships, all disabled, drifting helplessly near the gas giant. "It worked," General Park said, almost whispering. "It actually worked," Deho nodded slowly. "Phase 4. Captain Jiwan, move the fleet into position, but do not destroy the Varath ships. Just surround them. Make sure they cannot recover and escape." 3 weeks after the battle, the Galactic Assembly convened an emergency session. Every major species sent representatives. The chamber was massive, designed to hold thousands of delegates from hundreds of worlds. Every seat was filled. Ambassador Taman stood at the human delegation's position, watching as species that had ignored humanity's plea for help now argued about what the victory meant. Some were impressed. Others were frightened. All of them were forced to reassess their understanding of warfare and of humanity itself. The Varath sent a delegation too. Commander Vorth himself attended, though he arrived without military escort or symbols of rank. He walked into the chamber wearing simple diplomatic robes. When he passed the human delegation, he nodded to Taman, a gesture of respect that shocked every observer. "This session will address the recent conflict between humanity and the Varath Empire," the Assembly chairman announced. A conflict that ended with the Varath's first military defeat in 3,000 years. Murmurs filled the chamber. The words still seemed impossible. The Varath had never lost, until they faced humanity. "We must understand what happened," a delegate from the Kessian Alliance said. The Vareth fleet was 3 times larger, their technology superior. Yet they were defeated by tactics we do not understand, tactics that appear to violate accepted rules of warfare. What rules? Timon asked, speaking from his position. The Varath gave us an ultimatum: surrender or be destroyed. They did not offer negotiations. They did not respect our sovereignty. They threatened to erase our culture. When humanity refused to surrender, we used every advantage we could find. Is that wrong? You used deception, another delegate argued. You disrupted communications. You hid your true strength. You manipulated your enemy's expectations. These are not honorable tactics. Honor does not matter when your entire species faces extinction, Timon replied. We survived by thinking differently, by refusing to fight the battle our enemy expected. If that makes us dishonorable in your eyes, so be it. We would rather be alive and dishonorable than dead and praised. Commander Vorth stood. The chamber fell silent. When a Varath commander spoke, everyone listened. The human delegate is correct, Vorth said. His voice was measured, controlled. We gave them no choice. We demanded complete surrender. We threatened their existence. They responded by defeating us utterly, not through strength, through intelligence, through understanding us better than we understood ourselves. He paused, looking directly at Timon. I came here to make a formal statement on behalf of the Vareth Empire. We acknowledge our defeat. We withdraw all demands on human territory and sovereignty, and we propose something unprecedented, a treaty of mutual respect and non-aggression. We wish to learn from humanity, to understand how they think, how they see warfare, because they have shown us something we did not believe possible. The chamber erupted in conversation. A Varath commander proposing to learn from another species. Unthinkable. There is more, Vorth continued. I have been authorized by Vareth High Command to make a personal request. I wish to study with Colonel Deho, the officer responsible for our defeat. I wish to understand his methods, his thinking. In Vareth culture, learning from a superior warrior is the highest form of respect. Timon looked at Vorth carefully. This was genuine. The proud warrior wanted to learn from the human who defeated him. It was both humbling and dangerous. Humanity had revealed how they thought, how they fought. Now their strongest potential enemy wanted to understand those methods completely. I cannot answer for Colonel Deho, Timon said. That decision is his alone. On Earth, Deho watched the assembly session from his small apartment in Geneva. He had remained there since the battle, analyzing reports, attending debriefings, answering questions from military leadership. But he had refused any public appearances or celebrations. General Park visited him that evening. He found Deho standing by the window looking out at the city. The assembly is offering you every honor imaginable, Park said. Multiple species want to hire you as military advisor. Earth's government wants to promote you to Supreme Commander. You could have anything you want. I want to go back to New Spring, Deho said quietly. Back to my farm. Back to peace. You know that's not possible anymore. The galaxy knows who you are now, what you're capable of. Commander Vorth wants to study with you personally. Deho turned to look at Park. The Varath commander wants to learn how to defeat his enemies by thinking like humans. Do you understand how dangerous that is? I revealed our methods, our way of thinking. If the Varath learn to combine their strength with human strategic thinking, they become unstoppable. Then teach them something else, Park suggested. Teach them that warfare should be avoided, that intelligence can be used for peace instead of conquest. Deho considered this. For a long moment he was silent. Then he nodded slowly. Tell Commander Vorth I will accept his request, but not as student and teacher, as equals attempting to understand each other, and not in a military base or command center. In New Spring, on my farm. Your farm? Park looked confused. Yes. Before I teach him about warfare, he needs to understand what we were fighting to protect. He needs to see what matters beyond conquest and victory. 3 months later, a Vareth transport landed near Deho's farm on New Spring. Commander Vorth emerged wearing simple civilian clothes. No weapons, no armor, no symbols of military rank. Behind him came 2 assistants carrying supplies. Deho met them at the edge of his rice fields. He handed Vorth a farming tool. Before we discuss warfare, Deho said, you will help me harvest this field. Vorth looked at the tool, then at the fields stretching before them. I am a military commander, not a farmer. I know, Deho said. That's the problem. You see the galaxy in terms of territory to conquer, resources to control. enemies to defeat. But you don't understand what you're actually fighting for. Help me harvest this rice. Then we can talk about warfare. For the next week, Vorth worked in the fields alongside Deho. The proud Varath warrior learned to plant seeds, maintain irrigation, harvest crops. He met the other farmers in the colony. Families, children, people living simple, peaceful lives. This is what you fought for, Vorth said one evening, as they sat watching the sunset over the fields. Not glory, not conquest, not even survival. You fought for this peace, for the right to live simply. Yes, Deho said. The Varath wanted to take our colonies, control our government, erase our culture. But what they were really trying to take was this: the right to decide our own future, to live according to our own values. Vorth was quiet for a long time. We have conquered many species, brought them into the Varath Empire. We always believed we were making them stronger, giving them purpose, but we were actually taking this away from them. Yes, Deho said simply. How do you live with what you did? Vorth asked suddenly. You killed thousands of Varath warriors, destroyed hundreds of ships. Do you feel guilt? Deho stared at the fields. Every day, I think about the 2,000 humans who died in that battle. I think about the Varath crews on ships that were destroyed. Every number in a casualty report was a person, someone with family, dreams, a future that ended because of decisions I made. Then why did you do it? Because the alternative was worse. If we had surrendered, billions of humans would have lost their future, their freedom, their identity. 2,000 lives weighed against billions. The math is simple, but that does not make it easier. Over the following months, Deho and Vorth discussed warfare, strategy, and philosophy. But they spent equal time working the farm, talking about peace and understanding each other's cultures. The key to victory, Deho explained one day, is understanding your enemy completely. Not just their tactics or technology, but what they value, what they fear, what makes them who they are. Once you understand that, you can predict them, you can prepare for them, you can defeat them. But that same understanding could be used to prevent warfare entirely, Vorth observed. If both sides understand each other completely, if both sides see each other as people rather than enemies, war becomes harder to justify. Exactly, Deho said. That's what I'm teaching you. Not how to win wars, how to make wars unnecessary. News of Deho's teaching spread across the galaxy. Other species sent military officers to study with him. Not to learn tactics, to learn thinking, to understand how humanity approached problems differently. Deho established a small academy on New Spring. He called it the Institute for Strategic Understanding. Students came from dozens of species. They learned warfare, but they also learned farming, philosophy, culture. The goal was not to create better warriors. It was to create better thinkers. Every war is won or lost before the first shot is fired, Deho told his students. It is won in the preparation, in understanding your enemy, in knowing what you are truly fighting for. The Varath gave humanity a reason to fight. We responded by understanding them better than they understood themselves. That understanding was our greatest weapon. But that same understanding can also be our greatest tool for peace. 5 years after the battle, the Varath and humanity signed a comprehensive treaty, not just non-aggression, full alliance, cultural exchange, joint research projects. The species that almost destroyed humanity became one of humanity's strongest partners.